What's good, YouTube? It's Justice Ace to be paid, and today I'm back with another video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about why Ice Spice and her career so far has been manufactured really well. The team around her has been protecting her and manufacturing this perfectly. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Do all those things. It helps me out a ton. Ice Spice is about to drop her debut project Y2K in like 2 weeks from now. And I wanted to make this video purposefully before that album actually came out because I can kind of smell the change in the air. I can kind of feel the energy shifting around Ice Spice. And what I mean by that is a lot of people kind of turning their backs on her. I feel like we're about to move into a period of her career where a lot of people are really hating on her. And I think it's going to start with Y2K. Whether that hate is warranted or not, you know, you can be the judge. Maybe she really is just that terrible. But I feel like we're moving into a space where a lot of people are just kind of over her. And this album may end up being received kind of badly. And I just kind of feel that in the air. That's just my hunch about the situation. I had the same hunch about Lil Baby back in like early 2022, middle of the year 2022. And I ended up being right about that in terms of the internet turning their back on Lil Baby. But maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But there's also a possibility that I'm right again. So I wanted to make this video before the fallout of this album came and before any of the narratives actually started. But for you who's watching this video, I want to ask you a question. Everyone watching the video, who here thought that Ice Spice would still be a relevant artist in hip hop today when she first blew up in the summer of 2022? Genuine question. Raise your hand if you were like, yeah, she'll probably be around in 2 years. Raise your hand if you really thought that. Because if you did, you're pretty smart. Most people didn't think she would be around that long. Most people thought that she would be like a flash in the pan. Oh, she just blew up for a couple of months and then she disappeared. That's what most people thought about her. Imagine telling somebody back then when Munch was going crazy that she would end up on a Taylor Swift song, the biggest artist in the world. I know a lot of people don't like to hear that fact, but it's true. She's the biggest artist in the world. Imagine telling people that when Munch first came out. They probably would have smacked you. They probably would have never believed you. Imagine telling somebody that she would do multiple tracks with Nicki Minaj. People would have been like, oh, well, maybe Nicki would get on like the Munch remix and that'd be about it. But no, multiple tracks with Nicki Minaj. People probably wouldn't have believed you. Now, it's not like she's had some super crazy long career. It's only been like 2 years now, barely. It's not like she's had super long lengths of success and longevity like a Nicki Minaj or anything like that. But there's no denying that she's been here and relevant longer than like 90% of people would have thought she'd be here back in 2022, including the people who actually liked Ice Spice. And I attribute a lot of this to really good, for the most part, more times than not, decision making in her career so far. Whether you can attribute that to James Roseman Jr., her manager, or 10K Projects and Capitol Records, her label, or Ice Spice herself. The way that she's been managed so far in her career is why she's still here today. I like Ice Spice a lot and I like her music. She makes cool, fun music, and it's really a lot better to listen to when somebody's not in your ear telling you how bad it is. Like, it's cool. She makes fun music. The beats are always nice. Her flow is pretty good. It's cool to just enjoy. But we also have to be very honest about Ice Spice and just tell the truth that she is a very limited artist. It's not like she's this crazy musical prodigy talent, and she would probably tell you that herself. Like, you know, I'm just making music, having fun. I'm not gonna say I'm the best ever, but like, she, you know, she's fun. But she's not like this crazy good artist. But the thing about Ice Spice, I don't want to be disrespectful. She's just not like a super talented, like, you know what I mean. I'm not trying to be rude, but it's the truth. But the thing about Ice Spice is she has everything else outside of just the music to be a super big pop culture relevant star. Like, even outside of just rap itself, just pop culture in general. She has the look. She has a unique style. Her hair, of course, stands out. She looks different. She has a decent amount of charisma. People really like her. She seems very interactive online. She seems like she's one of us. She's tapped in with the internet. Like, she has everything you need to be a marketable superstar, just speaking outside the music, because not everyone has that, but she does. She has all of that, but she's still very limited when it comes to her actual music and her artistry to this point. I'm not saying she can't get better. I'm not saying she doesn't have potential. I'm just saying right now in 2024, she's still very limited. And so every move that she makes is very calculated, and it has to be. Her team behind her, whoever is making these decisions for her, maybe it's just her, they have to be very cautious about everything that they do with Ice Spice because she's still new. She's still, kind of shaking off her growing pains and really becoming who she's going to become as an artist. And so she can't move around like an average artist and just kind of do things and whatever happens, happens. No, Ice Spice is a commercial darling. She is an artist that exists to be mainstream, to be pop culture relevant. And if she's not that, then it's kind of like, what are we even doing here? For the most part, I don't want to be rude, but like, it's just the truth. Ice Spice is an artist that she has to be doing well commercially. It's not like she's one of those artists that, if she does well commercially, whatever. And if she doesn't do well, it's whatever. We're just going to keep it pushing. It's not like she's somebody like a Flo Milli, where if Flo Milli is doing well commercially, great. Like, that's awesome. If the album isn't selling too crazy, whatever. She's just going to keep going. Like, nah. Ice Spice is a commercial darling. She's made to be mainstream. And if she's not, then her career's kind of looking a little questionable. Recently, Ice Spice just dropped an announcement that she would be going on tour to pair with her new album. And that's really what inspired me to make this video, because when I saw the announcement of the tour, I was like, okay, let me see where Ice Spice is performing, because she's coming to Arizona. And I looked and she's performing at the Marquee Theater in Tempe. Now, I've never heard of that place. I don't know. I don't really go to Tempe like that, even though I went to, never mind. We're just going to skip that. But, yeah, I look at the venue, and the venue seats, or it has a capacity of 1,500 people. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of small. Like, Ice Spice isn't Drake or anything like that. I didn't expect her to be at the Footprint Arena where the Suns play, but still, I expected her to be in a little bit bigger of a venue. And I checked all the venues that she was going to in the United States, and all of them were from the range of 1,500 to 6,000 people. So these are decent sized venues, but nothing super, super crazy. And especially that 1,500 for somebody who has had 4 top 10 Billboard hits in the last year and a half, and had the whole Barbie thing and just everything that's gone around her career in the last year and a half and how hot she's been, you'd be like, man, this kind of is weird. Like, these venues are really small for somebody who's been doing so well. But that's why this move is so perfect to me. This move in particular was like, man, her team knows what they're doing. This to me was really smart, because right now people are salivating at the mouth for narratives. That's what people want. That's kind of why my channel exists, because people are out there making narratives, and people just want to talk about narratives. They don't really care about the truth. They just want to get online and make memes and say, oh my gosh, this person fell off, this person did that. So if Ice Spice was to go in bigger venues, let's say seating 7,000 to 10,000, and maybe she's struggling to sell tickets a little bit. Maybe she has to drop the prices to $20, $30. Maybe she's giving away free tickets online. Maybe they're taking videos of the crowd, and there are big portions of the crowd that are, not there. There's big portions of seats that are taped off because nobody bought those seats. The narratives online would be nasty. The narratives, because people care more about narratives than they care about truth. So they would see, oh my gosh, Ice Spice isn't selling out. Oh my gosh, the narratives would be Ice Spice is a flop. Nobody cares about Ice Spice. Damn, Ice Spice fell off. Damn, Ice Spice can't even go on tour. Ice Spice was talking all of this about, people being below her. She can't even sell out an arena. Ice Spice is, Celtic Shaq in 2020, like they would be making those jokes, comparing her to Celtic Shaq, like Ice Spice in 2024. And it's that video of Shaq getting ready for warm-ups with the Celtics. Like, there would be nasty narratives floating around about Ice Spice. And Ice Spice is somebody who people are looking for any reason to hate on. She's one of those artists where if you give people an inch, they will take a mile with her. So being in these smaller venues gives her a better chance to completely fill these venues up and sell out to capacity. So if Ice Spice is doing as well as I predict her to do in these venues, she might be able to put out a headline out there, oh my gosh, Ice Spice sells out 10 shows. Now, people maybe won't look past the headline and be like, oh, well, she's only doing this and she's only doing that. And some people will. There's always going to be a section of haters who are looking to chop you down at whatever you do and anything in life. That goes for you too watching this video. So of course, there are going to be people like, oh, well, the venues are only 2,000, 3,000 seaters. But for the most part, people are going to be like, wow, I'm really impressed. Ice Spice sold out 10 arenas in a row. Wow, Ice Spice sold out in Atlanta. She sold out in LA. She sold out in New York. She sold out in Utah. Wow, that's really impressive. And the narrative there is actually what matters more than whatever the truth really is. And that's why her doing these venues was a really good move, in my opinion. Ice Spice is still a very green performer as well. She's still very much trying to find her footing as a performer and what she's good at and what she wants to do and really how to give fans a good show. So putting her in these smaller venues allows her a little bit more room to grow. And it also puts a little bit of a shield around her because the people that are going to be in these rooms, in these arenas that she's going to be performing in these, whatever you want to call them, these venues, they're going to be much more likely to be Ice Spice fans. They're much more likely to be diehard fans of her than if she's in a much bigger venue because it's a small venue. So the people buying the tickets really want to see Ice Spice. These are going to be people that actually really do want to see her rather than being people who are like, I don't know. So that kind of puts a little bit of a bubble around her in terms of the fans giving her a bit more grace in terms of her performances and not just trying to go there to record her, to clown her kind of on purpose. Now, if the performance is still bad, like, of course, the video clips are going to go viral regardless, but still, there's a little bit more of a bubble surrounding her with more of her actual fans in the building. She also doesn't have a very long catalog. I think she has like 20 songs out right now. And let's just say hypothetically, her album Y2K has 25 songs on it and all of them are bangers and everyone wants to hear these songs performed. Even still, her performance is probably going to last like 45 minutes, bro. Like, it's not going to be a very long performance. So renting out those bigger venues probably just didn't make a lot of sense in that regard as well. And also, you never really know how big your fan base is until you go on tour. Like, that's when you really get the signs of, okay, I have a big fan base. Okay, my fan base is kind of fair weather. Okay, I don't have any fans. Like, that's really the litmus test of fandom because anybody can stream a song. That's why when people talk about monthly listeners and, oh, this artist is bigger than, to a certain extent, those numbers are telling, but they don't tell the full story or anywhere close to it like ticket sales do. They really don't. Like, even album sales, like, yeah, anyone can listen to an album, but not everyone is going to buy a ticket. So I think this is also really good in terms of getting a kind of feeler for Ice Spice's fan base and how they can move going into the future. And also it allows for a little bit of a closer performance because these smaller venues make the performances more intimate because you're a lot closer with the artist. There's less people in the room, and that can work in terms of building your fan base as well. One thing that really told me that her team or whoever's making the decisions surrounding her was really smart. I was like, okay, they know what they're doing. Like, I noticed this from the very beginning, and this is a really small and simple move, but it's a really good one that most people just don't make. And this was in the very beginning of when she blew up, like around the time of Munch and all that stuff. And people, specifically the fan base that she blew up in, like the Nicki fans, the Cardi B fans, the Meg fans, that specific demographic, they're very active on social media and they're very active on Twitter in stan culture and like stan Twitter spaces. So the very first thing that those people tend to do, that fan base, that demographic, when somebody blows up, is check their Twitter. That's the first thing these people like to do, especially at that time period when Ice Spice was blowing up. This was a thing that was happening to everyone. It's always happened, but like really at that time period, that's when everyone's Twitter and old tweets were being pulled up. So when they went to Ice Spice's Twitter and they looked for tweets, they were looking for, homophobic slurs or any problematic tweets, any girl hating tweets, any tweets of her hating on Nicki Minaj, any tweets of her hating on Meg back in the day. They were looking for this type of stuff. And more particularly, they were looking for tweets that were colors because Ice Spice is a light-skinned girl. And oftentimes, if you look at any light-skinned girls, Twitter before the year like 2020, bruh, they probably had some tweets up there that weren't very nice about dark-skinned women. That's just what the culture was online. So those were the type of things that people were looking for, the homophobic slurs, the hating on old artists, and more particularly the colorism. And they didn't find any of that. None of those stan pages, none of those accounts that were looking, ooh, let me find something on her. I know I got something on her. They didn't find any of that when it came to Ice Spice, at least for the most part. And people saw that and they were like, see, I knew I loved her. I knew I loved Ice Spice. Oh my gosh, like, I knew it. I knew I loved her so much. And the funny thing was her account was made in 2014 and all the tweets that they found, all her oldest tweets were from 2020. Now, maybe, we can give her the benefit of the doubt. Maybe she just wasn't comfortable tweeting until 2020. But come on now. Ice Spice was a high schooler from like, 2015, 16, all the way up until like 20. Come on, bro. You think she wasn't tweeting at all? they definitely went through and deleted some of her tweets. And one of her former friends actually came out and said that they deleted her tweets. That one, like Baby Storm Girl, I believe is her name. So when I saw that, it's a very simple move. It doesn't take like a big, thought process. It doesn't take a big team getting around a war room table and being like, what should we do next? But it's just the little things that are very, very smart that most artists don't do. Most people don't do that. They just kind of blow up and then people check their Twitter and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you said this about Nicki Minaj in 2012. Oh my gosh, you said that about Drake in 2015? Like, that just happens to everybody. It happens all the time. Even somebody like Playboi Carti, whose whole brand is his aura and being mysterious and rare. People are still pulling up his tweets from 2011 where he's tweeting about having homework and not doing it. Like, most artists just don't do that. So when I saw that when I saw that Ice Spice's team were paying that much attention to everything surrounding her, I was like, oh, that's pretty good there. That is pretty good. Her branding has been really good as well. Mostly the hair, especially in the beginning, and people making jokes about her hair and stuff like that. But even outside of that, like, she has a pretty unique and identifiable look and style when it comes to like the way that she dresses and pretty much everything about her. And also, when it comes to her music, that was pretty unique too, at least in the beginning. Now, I know people are gonna be like, what are you talking about? You might not like it, but it's true. That kind of like pretty girl, bubbly, nursery rhyme, baddie rap over a New York drill beat was pretty unique. Like, nobody had really made anything like that up until Ice Spice really started making it poppin'. Now, maybe somebody else did, but for the most part, that was something that we hadn't heard. It wasn't like this creative masterpiece that nobody could fathom. And oh my God, how did she think of this? But like, it was different. It wasn't anything like we were hearing at the moment. Her brand is one that works really well for her targeted audience. She makes fun music that's really positive, or at least has a positive aura, and, is self-empowering and is pretty girl music. And it makes you feel good about yourself. And she's just very likable and has just a positive aura around her. And it works really well for her targeted audience. Now, it might not work for the men who don't listen to women in rap, or the men who don't really like that type of stuff. Like, I'm not the targeted audience for the most part when it comes to Ice Spice. You watching the video, probably not the targeted audience for the most part when it comes to Ice Spice, at least if you're, somebody who's subscribed to me, because you probably are more of a fan of male rap. But when it comes to her targeted audience, it works really well. It works really, really well. And that's why when she was super, super hot, she was able to get a feature from Nicki Minaj, the biggest female rapper of all time. She was able to get a feature from, or get on a song with Taylor Swift, the biggest artist in the game, period. Because she has a very attractive brand. It's something that you want to be attached to. It's a positive, oh yeah, we're having fun, we're a girl's girl type of brand. Like, that was her thing. And people might say, oh, well, no, it was just because she's super hot. But yeah, she was super hot, and that's true. But artists are hot all the time. Artists pop up every year having a super crazy year. There's always somebody who's super nuclear hot, but there's a reason she got those level of features. There's a reason why Dunkin' Donuts was jumping down her throat at the opportunity to give her a brand deal. There's a reason why she has a brand deal with Starry. There's a reason why she was on the soundtrack for Barbie. Like, it's not just, oh, she was hot. It's that brand as well. And there's also a reason why she took all those deals. Specifically, Barbie, pretty much anyone would take that, right? Like, it's Barbie, and it was the biggest movie of the year. But still, there's a reason. She is a commercial darling. That is who she is. That is her bubble. It's not a coincidence that Munch blew up almost 2 years ago now, and we're just now getting the debut album from Ice Spice. When people in her situation blow up, for the most part, in a kind of gimmicky way where the song is halfway loved by the internet, halfway hated, and it just kind of goes viral and people are just reacting to it like, what even is this? Some people like it, some people don't. A lot of the times those artists have to follow that up with something pretty quickly. Obviously more singles and stuff like that, but an album especially, they kind of have to drop those pretty soon, or a project, some sort of full-length project. But Ice Spice is still very new. She's still a very new artist. And I don't mean just to like the general public in the mainstream audience. I mean, she's still very new as an artist in general. Ice Spice has less than like 20, 25 songs out right now. And in 2 years, she has less than and a whole project that she put out, she has less than like 20 to 25 songs. And the level of development for an artist from songs 1 to song 25 is way higher than it is from song 110 to 130. Like, you're just developing a lot more in this time period. So they have been purposefully kind of pushing this project back in order for her to develop over this time. Because this debut album for Ice Spice is really, really important. It's almost, I wouldn't say it's make or break, but it's damn near there, because that debut album is really important for an artist like Ice Spice, who has potential to be a massive mainstream success in music for years to come, or kind of a gimmicky flame out who's considered trash. And we look back on like, man, they had like 1 or 2 songs, but they're terrible. And her legacy ends up being a lot closer to somebody like Block Boy JB than it does to a Nicki Minaj or even a Doja Cat. Just go back and look at her first project, Like, the EP. That was a 7-song EP. And guess how many new songs were on that EP? 2. 2, I believe. It might have been 3, but I'm pretty sure it was 2. There were like 2 or 3 new songs on a 7-song EP. Songs that we hadn't heard before. Of course, she put Munch and some other stuff that she already put out, but that wasn't on accident. That was on purpose. And also, the project was dropped with like a couple of days notice. That was also on purpose. It was a safety net, just in case it flops and sells 2K first week. They can say, oh, well, you know, we dropped it on 2 days notice. We barely let the fans know. This was just kind of us trying things out, you know, but it sold about 15K, which isn't bad for like 4 or 5 days notice and the point in which Ice Spice was in her career at that time. So it didn't end up being a bad thing, but that wasn't an accident. That was her being on the leash. That was her and her team being like, all right, we're going to put feelers out there again. And they were like, ooh, you know, it wasn't bad, but I think we need more time. I think that's what happened there. Her music itself has stayed relatively within a safety bubble since her mainstream debut. Those New York drill beats that Riot has been cooking up for her over the last couple of years, they work perfectly for her. Shout out to Riot, because he's giving her something that she can work with every single time. Those beats are tailor-made for her. Speaking of tailor-made, the biggest moment in her career where she kind of stepped out of her comfort zone was probably the feature that she gave Taylor Swift on the song Karma. And in my opinion, that's probably one of her worst features. It's not like terrible, but you can tell she's kind of like, I don't know about this. That, you know, she just wasn't that comfortable yet. And also lyrically, she's also staying within a bubble as well. Her lyrics and her flows pretty much are just kind of like rearranged a little bit. The flow is pretty much the same, but the lyrics are just kind of like reworded from song to song. They all kind of sound like, she a baddie and she got a fatty. I don't need a man. I'm these bitches' daddies. Like, that's kind of like, for the most part, like, you know. And also she just keeps throwing in poop bars. This is a side note. I don't really know why I'm bringing this up, but she just keeps bringing up poop. I don't know why. Why are you always talking about poop? Why? I don't understand it, but I guess that's just what's in her bag at this moment. I know a lot of people want to call Ice Spice trash and say she's falling off and she's not as hot as she used to be and all that stuff. But you got to admit, the fact that she is still where she is right now and pushing on strong shows that she has a really good team around her, because she could have failed a long time ago. She could have fell off a long time ago. She was very, if you think she's green now, she was green 2 years ago to a whole different, she was neon green. Okay. She could have been fell off if they would have just fed her to the wolves. If her team was just like, look, we're just in here to get this money that we got on the table right now. You're going to do a show here, and here. You're going to do a feature here. We're going to drop an album because you're super hot right now. And we're going to do all this. We're just going to hurry up and just grab all this cash that's on the table right in front of our face. She probably would have been fell off. If she drops an album in spring of 2023, instead of waiting all the way up until now, it's probably going to be pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. I like Ice Spice, but it's probably going to be pretty bad. Can you see Ice Spice a year ago? Not now, because some people will still say that her project's going to be bad regardless. Now, could you imagine Ice Spice a year ago dropping a 15-song project, a 20-song project? Probably not, right? It probably wouldn't went too well. Could you see Ice Spice going on tour a year ago? Probably wouldn't have went too well. Probably would have had those people recording in her arena. Oh my God, there's nobody here. Ice Spice is a flop. She probably would have fell off a long time ago if her team wasn't really thinking about the future. If they were just thinking about right now, let's go get this money, they would have done all of that stuff in the short term and probably ruined any potential she had in the future. So the fact that she is still going and she's still as limited as she is, even though she has everything outside of the music is still the most important thing. The fact that she's still going to this day and going strong and has all these numbers and all this stuff, you got to admit her team is good. I think on this album, we are going to get some new layers to Ice Spice. I think she's going to show off a little bit of development. She's not going to jump out her body musically and start rapping on there, but I think she's going to show us a little something new, show us some development. And as much as, you know, the signs may be pointing to Ice Spice's time in the sun possibly being up, as much as the signs point to, you know, people turning on her, as much as the signs point to perceived lack in actual development with the song Gimme a Light, and you know, as much as I probably think this album might not be the best, there's just something inside of me. There's just a little bit of hope in me. There's just a little small voice in the back of my head who's telling me this album might actually be pretty good. Like, it might be perceived pretty well. Because up until this point, you got to give Ice Spice's team her flowers, their flowers, whoever it is. They've been making good decisions, good choices, and even the Like EP, that was pretty good, even though most of it was stuff we've already heard. The new stuff on there was pretty good. So, as much as the signs may be pointing to disaster coming for Ice Spice with this new album, especially with the album cover having Y2K on a trash can on it, which is just insane. I don't know why any artist would do that. There's just a little piece of me that's like, I do trust Ice Spice's team. I trust her management, and I do trust what they're doing. So I still think, you know, I'm not super excited for this, but I still very much do see a world where people are clowning her after this album, but I do have a small inkling of like, I kind of trust them, and I think they're going to do well. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe Ice Spice's career hasn't been managed well. Maybe she's just gotten this far because she's just that damn good. She really is way better than what people give her credit for, but I don't know. That's just my opinion on the situation. If you made it to the end of this video, I greatly appreciate you, like I truly do. You're a real one. Make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I go by the name of Pay. Have a good day. Be safe. Be blessed. Peace.